So I'm here at the Palo Pinto County Courthouse, and I've got two ladies here. Could you give me your names and why you were here?
My name is Rhonda Wilkinson.
You're Rhonda Wilkinson.
I'm here in support of Brandon Robertson because...
Brandon Johnson.
Brandon Johnson.
Yeah.
The wrong Brandon.
Yeah.
I know several Brandons.
Yeah.
But Brandon is fighting for the right to see his children.
Right.
And I support him in that, and I have watched this happen, and it's unfolded over the last 5 years that I'm aware of.
Right.
And it's come to a head the last 3 months. He's not been able to see his children for 3 months for no good reason. He's a law-abiding man who, you know...
Brandon's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He doesn't abuse his children. There's no charges of any of that.
Right.
She has just decided not to let him see his kids just because.
And she is Reagan Johnson, and
she's going to be our mayor. Well, she is our mayor, I guess. They've already named her mayor.
They've named her mayor?
Yes. They canceled our elections. They canceled our elections.
Wow, I had no idea.
There's no one else running, so they decided we didn't need to vote on anything or write anybody in.
But the question that I have here is that what she is doing, this is interference with child custody. According to the Texas Penal Code, that is a state jail felony.
Yes.
And I mean, I actually called up the police on her as a felony in progress, and there is a police report filed right now. And she's an uncharged felony right now, but she's still a felon. So you have a felon for mayor here, is what I...
Well, it's against our city charter for her to be mayor.
Why is that?
Because it is a felony in progress.
Right.
She's also being held in contempt of court. The judge did sign those papers several days ago.
Finally did.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
And so
Judge Moore signed
Judge Moore signed them.
We're in contempt against her.
So she's in contempt of court, and yet she still is your mayor. Now, how do you expect her to uphold the law as mayor if she is...
Well, and she's doing this to her own children.
Right.
I mean, that's what's so unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, we do not want her as mayor because she will not obey the law.
Right.
For many other reasons, but that is a good one right there.
Yeah.
The other part is she doesn't live in our city. She pretends to live in our city, but she really doesn't. And that's also against
She's not
the
a property
city charter.
owner.
She's not a property owner. And
doesn't pay property taxes. She has to pay some taxes, I guess
So
the business taxes, the sales taxes.
This sounds like complete lawlessness going on out here. You've got a mayor that's a rogue mayor to some degree.
We do.
Yeah,
We do.
but now you mentioned something.
Well, our elected mayor, they booted him out.
Right, right. So you mentioned that, this has been going on for 5 years. Do you have any personal experience yourself with a similar situation as far as...
Oh, it goes on all over the state of Texas, and it has for years. I have a brother that over 30 years ago, years and years later, he finally got to know his daughter after the court system,
So
and the crazy mom split him up.
So you've seen this firsthand,
yes.
Both of you?
I'm for 50-50 all the way. I mean, I think anybody should be proud that they have a father that wants to see their children, someone that can support them and give them a good life.
Yeah, yeah.
My stepson is one of the victims of this court system.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
My husband and his ex-wife, got a divorce. Happens all the time.
Right.
The judge in that county was fishing buddies with his ex-wife's grandfather. And so he didn't have a chance to begin with because these judges have way too much power.
Right,
they do not have to follow any law.
Everything's at their discretion.
Yeah, it's at their discretion.
Right.
They took everything but a pillow and my husband's truck from him.
Okay.
And they gave him 30 minutes to get the pillow and the truck and leave.
Wow. And how long ago did this happen?
This happened, the child is now 42 years old.
Okay.
We got CPS involved. She was an alcoholic and a drug addict.
Right.
And when he was 7 years old, the little boy, he was drawing out lines of cocaine for her to snort.
Wow.
This is what he's told us because we had no access to him at all.
Right.
And then at 10 years old, he was running drugs for her.
This is amazing.
Sell.
And the judge was behind her.
Oh, 100%. He could not even get a hearing. They told him if he made any more trouble that he was going to jail.
Okay.
Good old boy system.
Good old boy system.
So, is there anything else you want to add? Or I know that we're not trying to keep this real long here, but obviously that is a very personal and horrendous thing that just took place there.
So that's the reason we need the laws changed in Texas, not just for Brandon.
Right.
He's
the
got
case
a big
now.
message for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so proud of what he's doing.
Yeah.
Bringing folks together.
Right.
The men who have experienced this, have no idea how many other people have had the same problem.
So you talk about him bringing people together because the accusation against him is that he's tearing people apart, but he should not be
I don't
doing
see it
this.
that way at all.
Okay, so explain me a little bit more about that.
Well, I just see right upstairs that the gentleman who come from across the state of Texas to come and join with
Right.
him and show support for
Right.
his cause. Like we said, it's not just about Brandon and his children. It's an epidemic.
Right.
For all children.
And the interesting thing is that right now there are about 20 people supporting him, and we are forbidden from going inside the courtroom. The courtroom I thought was supposed to be at 75% capacity, but it's like
a public courtroom, and they limited it eight persons in addition to the litigants for each side.
That is really a shame. And I went in there. I sent a letter in as a member of the media trying to get in. They denied that. I expected that they would, but I wanted the record that they actually denied it. And something is going on here because this could have been Zoom broadcast. We could have been watching this stuff. It seems like some things are being done in secret that they do not want to have exposed.
Well, they're doing
When
that
they
because Reagan is the mayor, and she's part of a group of people who run this county, and everyone will say
He was the
conspiracy
last one in.
theorists.
They
but-
turned us away right after him.
Yeah.
After Brandon?
After her sponsor, yes.
Got it.
After Reagan's sponsor.
And who's Reagan's sponsor?
What's his name?
Kirk Horton. I believe.
Kirk Horton. Yeah, he's up there, and he was let in after the 8 and 8. They told us there's 8 and 8, no one can come in.
Yeah.
And Kirk Horton just walked right in there.
Wow.
He doesn't care because he runs things.
There was only 3 of us out there that they weren't going to let in.
Right.
When they said that, it was for everybody else.
Right.
And then he walked up and went right in. So, that's bias right there.
Right.
But that being said, that's why Judge Moore's part of that, and he's going to do for Reagan what they want for him to do. It just is.
So you believe that
I
he's
hope
going
that
to be
Brandon
using...
being out, broadcasting this and bringing it to the public's notice will help him gain some support where this type of thing does not happen anymore.
Right, absolutely. Well, the interesting thing is that I've seen Brandon doing his Facebook Lives. I came in from Dallas. Brandon's a friend of mine, and I decided to come in because I wanted to see it in person. I'm not, you always saying, maybe she doesn't know me. You try to give every benefit of the doubt to her, but then she also kicked me out of the restaurant after I purchased something, and I was not able to continue on with what I was doing. She was mean toward me, and it's been really something. And even outside the courtroom here, now there have been a couple of guards that have been, or people here, deputies, that have been nice, but there have been some that have been pretty vicious.
The law enforcement's involved too. They're very vicious.
Yeah.
They were not friendly at all. As you know, I heard a little bit of the conversation you had with them as far as the press trying to enter the courtroom.
Right. So as far as the district attorney, going through if you'd like to, but the district attorney here, her name is Christy Bennett.
Yeah, we know her.
We did get her email contact, but because I was the one that filed the felony in progress report. I filed the police report, and they have me down as a witness. I don't care who did it, but I want to know why is she not being charged with a felony?
It's because they're part of a group.
The rules don't apply.
The rules don't apply to them.
Yeah. Anyway, but you are, just so that I'm clear 100%, you are here in support of Brandon
Johnson. We're here to support Brandon and his cause, which is the 50-50 partnership as far as the children, for the rest of the children's lives.
Right.
That's what you do when you enter into an agreement, and have children together.
He is
It's
tired
a lifetime commitment.
Yeah.
And he's trying to make good on that commitment, but they're not letting him.
And he's a great man.
He is. I
He
couldn't
is.
say anything more about Brandon.
Yeah.
I want to repeat what he said.
I've seen him with his kids. He's wonderful.
The last post that he made. He said the money that is going towards these courts in the state of Texas should be going into my children's lives.
Absolutely.
And I agree with him 100%.
Their futures.
The thousands and thousands of dollars over the last 10 years that they have spent in personal squabble, basically, because of her, could have gone to the kids.
And often it's a person that has to spend the money not because he wants to or she wants to, but because they're forced to do so.
Being forced to.
And the abuse of the family courts is widespread. In Texas, widely known. Just so that you know that this has now started to catch the national attention as far as what's happening in Texas. I know I spoke with somebody last night from the East Coast. Got other people as well. So we are going to talk about this more. But thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for being here.
I'm so glad that you're here to support Brandon again. He's my friend. I didn't have any idea how many people would be here, but thank you so much.
I was glad to see
There's more
you
people
turn out.
supporting them than is here.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks that
Because they have to
today.
work and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Had
I know.
kids and things. I read several folks that had to keep the kids today and stuff rather than be here. So,
And Cody,
Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you so much.
Thank you so
I appreciate
much.
it.
You have a great day.
we
Thanks.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it too. Thank you. We have a very special guest here, and this is actually Brandon's mom. It's so nice to meet you. My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm a friend of Brandon, and obviously you see that he's got a lot of support here today.
Yes, he does.
So
He feels so good.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about Brandon, from your perspective as a mother, and what you've been experiencing regarding not being able to see your grandchildren.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's been heartbreaking. I haven't seen them since February.
Since February.
Right, but the first part of that, from February to July 21st, when she took them, that was COVID, pretty much.
Right.
And then,
But that really was unnecessary too. She was taking advantage. She was exploiting something for her own purposes.
Right.
So, but now my understanding is Reagan is now mayor of Mineral Wells.
She's what?
Now mayor of Mineral Wells.
It's my understanding that she will be mayor of Mineral Wells in November, because no one's running against her.
Okay.
And she's also on the city council.
What's that? Okay. So anyway, I just want to ask one quick question then. Well, anyway, your son is an outstanding man. It's so good to meet you. I wish I had more time with you right now.
Me too, maybe after.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much for showing up to support.
Thank you. So Joseph, go ahead, tell us your name and tell us why you're here. We're in Palo Pinto Courthouse. Go ahead.
Absolutely. My name is Joseph Villareal. I'm down here trying to show support for Brandon Johnson and having to deal with this family court circus shows that they've got going on.
Okay, so we're here to support Brandon Johnson. What do you know about Brandon? Have you been close friends with him, or?
No, I met him through some of the shared parenting organizations that I'm part of and following on Facebook. Seen him down in Austin, and again, came down here to show support for the court hearing that he had today.
So he's been doing this for several years then. He's been actually facing this for several years.
Absolutely.
And the issue is, go ahead.
No, absolutely he has. He's been dealing with it for a few years. In particular, recently, he's been dealing with access denied with his kids for the past, going on about 3 months, I think, give or take.
Okay. So have you had a similar situation then?
Yes, I'm dealing with it in Tarrant County right now.
Okay, and the judge that you have is?
Baca Bennett, 360th District.
Yeah, I've not heard really good things about her. I've heard a lot of bad things, actually.
Yep.
But anyway, so the family court system in Texas, what are your thoughts about it?
It's garbage. I think it's trash.
Okay.
I think it's a facade. They go under the cloak of in the best interest of the kids, and it's about money is what it comes down to.
Yeah. Do you think that the children are being exploited for the sake of money then?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, but you were here again today. You were here to support Brandon. You've seen what he's gone through. I know that the judge said something about he didn't think it was good for him to be posting these videos, but the reality is his ex-wife has been keeping the kids from him.
Yep.
And I was sitting in there. I got to sit there for the last half of the meeting, the last half of the court proceedings. I've got a lot of various opinions about that. But one of the things I kept on thinking, is this judge qualified to be a parent coach? And what the judge is saying, has the judge always lived by it himself as a father? I mean, maybe we should ask the judge some of these same questions. I was not overly impressed. I know what the judge was trying to do. I was not personally overly impressed. But anyway, so anything else you want to say before we take off here?
That's it. And just, hopefully things get straightened out in Texas.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks so much. Thanks,
Yes,
Joseph.
sir.
Quotes.
Okay,
Nice
go ahead.
little quotes.
So this is with Taryn. Taryn, where did you come up from?
So good morning. My name's Taryn Champagne, and I drove in from Austin this morning. So it was about a 3-hour drive.
You had a 3-hour drive, almost 200 miles then.
Yeah, almost a little less. I got up early and made my way here.
And what was the reason that you came up here then in particular?
So I came up to show support for my friend Brandon Johnson. I've known him for a couple years now. I met him down at the Capitol fighting for equal parenting.
Right.
And from what I've seen in the past, especially the past couple months, I've really had my eyes open to the fact that the courts are really star chambers. So basically you go in there and nobody can see what's going on. Fortunately, you know, with the whole coronavirus pandemic, they've started broadcasting it on Zoom.
Right.
But in Brandon's case, there was no opportunity for it to be broadcast in Zoom. And I think really one thing you need to look at is right here in Section 13 of the Texas Constitution under the Bill of Rights. It says all courts shall be open.
Right, absolutely.
Not all courts shall be open unless there's a pandemic going on or anything like that. They only allowed so many people in the hearing room. So I know currently we're allowed to have more than I think 50% of people in a room.
Right.
So I wanted to see what the capacity of the room was. It wasn't posted on the you know, at the front of the room.
Right.
So I went and talked to the public works guy in the basement of this courthouse, and he said he's seen up to 150 people in there. Not only that, I saw that he was able to look in on the hearing on closed circuit television.
Right.
So they have cameras there.
Right.
They're just choosing not to broadcast and do anything, and they're not letting people in.
Right.
So, you know, I think that violates one of the judicial canons, which I've got pulled up right here,
right,
of the Texas Judicial Code of Conduct. Canon 2, avoiding impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all the judge's activities. Section A, actually, a judge shall comply with the law and should act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't letting people in.
Right.
There are no cameras going on.
Right, because I came in here with a camera and I was told no, and I knew that they would do that, but I just wanted the record that, you know, that the judge, again, forbade the camera from going in, even though the judge has his own cameras.
So, you know, all we're left to rely on is a transcript, which the judge can strike things from the record. It's not going to communicate any body language. It's not going to communicate tone of voice. I wasn't in there to listen, but I have a feeling, based on my own personal experience with courts and seeing all these other court hearings, that the judge is going to do what the judge wants to do, and nothing's going to happen to them.
So, looking at the judge himself, there were times that he was almost looking at himself as like a parenting coach of some sort. You know, he's a father, he's this, and it was interesting because I'm just wondering why he was giving that advice in a certain way. I mean, I've seen judges that have treated themselves as if they were attorneys, like, you know, almost acting as prosecuting attorneys. I've seen judges, I mean, maybe there's a point for that, but do you have any comments regarding that? Because, you know, a judge is supposed to be an expert in the law, not, you know, now I'm become an expert parenting coach, and here's the way that you need to parent your kids. Well, he can't parent his kids because he's being kept from his kids.
Well, you know, that brings up a funny point. There's a presumption that parents act in the best interest of the child.
Right.
And unless you prove otherwise, there's no business for the state to be butting in and telling you otherwise. So let's assume Brandon's a good parent. In fact, I would say, you know, him going and fighting to be in his kid's life presumes he's an exemplary parent.
Right, and he's been doing this for at least 3 to 4 years, I think.
So Brandon wants to be involved. He wants to raise his own kids. He's not going out of his way to get anybody else to do it. He's doing the right thing, and he's being prevented from doing that. You know, at least since I think it's July, his children's mother has been preventing him from having any access to the children.
Right, and I listened to part of that testimony because they made it sound like the kids ran away from him, and my understanding was, and Brandon can't confirm or deny that, my understanding was that she kidnapped them. And I went down in person, and I did watch her when she was keeping the kids from her. I was the one who filed the police report against her, and the police said, oh, the kids are in here, they're fine. Well, she was committing a felony. It was a felony in progress. And I have not yet seen what's done on that. We will follow up on that. I do have the district attorney's number and email and everything at this point. But it seemed like the judge did not take any of that into consideration. And the judge should have known that, in my opinion.
The judges are not qualified psychologists or psychiatrists, so really it ends up being their own personal biases that are affecting these in the best interest of the child decisions.
Is there anything that you know about Brandon that would cause him to be considered an unfit father or anything like that?
Nothing that I know of.
Yeah. And we've had some other people that have known Brandon for years, and they've said the exact same thing. Exemplary, outstanding father, but they have also seen, too, that these courts supposedly acting in the best interest of the child, which they cannot define, destroying children's lives and destroying parent-child relationships. But anyway, thanks for coming up. Anything else you want to add?
Just want to finish up with always remember that sunlight is the best disinfectant, and we really need to be watching these courts.
So speaking of which, you were on that call last week with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, is that correct?
Yes, I was.
And you were the first person to speak, and I thought that you hit it out of the park. So, I mean, how did the leadoff hitter get to hit a grand slam? With, you know, you're the first batter, and I'm like, man alive, he just nailed everything.
Okay, so real quick, we can talk basically about providing an effective testimony. Whenever you provide testimony to any sort of governmental body, you need to be aware of what the law states or what kind of guidelines there are for anybody that you're filing a complaint with, and you need to be able to cite that and then also cite why they're wrong. So don't just come in with a complaint. You need to say why it's wrong and have that evidence.
So I talked with Megan Fox, who actually did the article about our testimony last week, and she called up somebody from the State Commission on Judicial Conduct who basically said 95% of these complaints that they lodge, really they don't even know what they're talking about. Do you believe that figure?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought too. I know when I've complained against them, it's because of the actions that they've taken. And, they talk about discretion of the judge. Is it discretion of a judge when a judge says, I've beaten you up enough? I mean, that's, okay. I guess the discretion was enough. I've beaten you up enough, but I mean, because I had a judge say that to me, I've beaten you up enough. And then he moved on. And, the smirking and stuff like that, as you mentioned, the things that we don't get to see in the transcripts, the nonverbal stuff, the eye rolls, the tone of voice and everything else, even the posturing. And I mean, I've been down with Brandon a couple of times. I've seen judges do things to him that have threatened him. And I also realize too that Brandon is taking a different approach to some of these things. I don't know if that works for him or against him at times, but there was a part that I thought was very effective, but I think that the judge eventually goes back to being a judge. And, he has to live with his own conscience too.
Well, the judges aren't held responsible for any of their actions.
Right, and that is a problem.
I've testified now twice before this State Commission on Judicial Conduct. Nothing's changing, so...
right.
For those of you who are watching, be aware that the Sunset Commission will be reviewing the State Commission on Judicial Conduct in the next couple years.
Yeah.
If you've filed complaints, hold on to those complaints and be ready to submit them.
Right, and regarding today then, would you also, I know you weren't inside here, but I'm planning to file a complaint today regarding some of these issues. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, I'm going to file a complaint as well. Texas Constitution said the court shall be open. Well,
right.
It wasn't open today.
Right, absolutely. Okay, thanks so much, appreciate it, Darren.
Not a problem.
Bye. So Hunter, you came here today to Palo Pinto.
Yes.
Where'd you come from?
I came from Tyler, Texas.
How many miles was that?
I was about a little over 3-hour drive.
Almost
for me
200
this morning. So I got up at about 5:40.
Okay.
I got red dressed and drove out to see Brandon.
Yeah, so you came out to see Brandon. What do you know about the situation here?
I just know that Brandon is a great guy, and so is Jana. They got a great family.
Yeah.
And I know that right now he's not able to see his children, Colby and Campbell.
Have you ever gone through anything like this yourself?
Yeah, I have. I went through, been drugged through family court, so I can see where Brandon's, I've been through this mess, so I understand what he's going through, and that's why I'm here to support him.
Yeah, I think everybody's here for that purpose. Now yours, how long were you fighting to get access to your children? Your story's a little bit different than most people's.
2 years.
Okay, but your story's a little bit different because you actually adopted one.
Yeah, my oldest child, Sophia, I adopted her from my ex-wife's previous marriage, and where she had terminated her father's rights, and then I adopted Sophia, and caught myself in a battle even for Sophia, during that 2-year process.
Yeah, and then you all had 2 children together as well.
Correct. I have twins, Lily and Lucy.
So you have 50-50 right now.
I do.
How much did it cost you?
About $230,000.
$230,000?
Yeah, and that's just for legal fees, and for her legal fees were over like $100,000. Then I had psychologist. I also had an amicus attorney. Then we had like that was the attorney for my children, and then we also had a what was called a parenting facilitator.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people involved in this whole thing.
Correct.
So you said that you had to pay for her attorney fees?
I did.
Why is that?
I think because at that time I was the only one working, and I don't know, even though when the estate split, she was awarded even more than the 50% share. Yeah. And they still attacked me for the attorney's fees because they didn't feel like she could pay for it.
Wow, that's really something. So, okay, so you got run through the cleaner on that one.
Really, in reality, what I will tell you and what I'll tell the people listening today, I mean, a lot of times the cards are stacked up against the men in family court. Now I know sometimes it's stacked up against the women, and I'm not here to say one way or the other, but a majority of the time it is stacked up against the men.
So Hunter, last week were you also testifying against to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct?
I did. I gave my testimony there, and I even filed against the judge when I was going through there, and nothing ever happens. I mean, we file complaints against judges, and all that ever happens is they hear it and they said, you know, we don't see any abuse. But as a matter of fact, in my case, her opposing counsel, the opposing counsel against me, was one of the biggest donors to his campaign, and so was the amicus attorney, which to me, the amicus attorney has pictures of him on his Facebook with his family on the field. They're just actually giving money to their friends is all it is.
Yeah, at your expense.
At my expense.
Well, actually, it wasn't really quite your expense either. It was your children's expense, from what I understand.
Exactly right.
The college funds.
I did. I even have I had a 529 plan for my adopted daughter that, you know, I had to actually sell all of that to pay off, you know, her attorney.
Wow, that's amazing. So as far as your confidence in the family courts, is it high, is it low?
Oh, man. I would tell you, like, coming in here today, even though we know the outcome of Brandon, which wasn't favorable to Brandon, it's probably the lowest at all point.
Right.
Anybody that's been through this realizes that there's bias, and that family court is nothing but a big joke.
Right, it is a big joke. There's no constitutional protections. So there was a lady out of the East Coast, Megan Fox. She writes for PJ Media, and she actually picked up on our story and has written about it. And you were mentioned in there in particular. It was Hunter Cole Youngblood, but Hunter Cole Youngblood. And so your testimony must have moved her as well then.
Yeah, and all I'm saying is that, you know, anybody that has been through family court, has been through this, they realize that our confidence in the judiciary is at an all-time low.
Right.
So what I would say is you know, 19, 20 people gave testimony, something like 19 or 20 people gave testimony.
Yeah.
It was 100% against family court.
Right.
There were no other courts mentioned except for family court.
Right.
What really needs to be an overhaul, we need to have cameras in courtrooms, we need to start holding judges accountable.
Right.
And we really need to start being, having a little bit more fair process through legislation.
Right. So it was interesting that you talk about cameras in the courtroom, because I brought my camera down. I sent them an email last night. I knew that it was going to be denied, but I wanted to create the record that they denied it. But, you know, it does say in our Texas Constitution that the courts shall remain open. It also talks about freedom to write and to you know, members of the media. I'm here with Dad Talk today.
Right.
And, you know, so there are just some things like that. I looked at the courtroom today. There were maybe 22 people in there, I think, at the maximum at one time.
Right.
I believe that the courtroom was able to hold about 150 people. I know they're practicing the social distancing and everything else, but it just seemed to be that we had probably almost 12 people sitting outside the courtroom supporting Brandon who were not allowed in there. And there seemed to be something wrong with that, too.
I agree. I mean, I think that, you know, people really should show up for, you know, their friends and family in family court, and really hold these judges accountable, because what's happening behind these closed doors, where they're just pillaging families and actually taking away, you know, children from good parents or good loving parents, is absurd. So I would tell anybody that's watching, you know, this program, Dad Talk Today, does a great job, but I would tell people to get on board and actually show up and support your friends. Talk to your legislators, and let's, you know, get things moving in the right direction. You know, right in the right direction for family court.
Right. So one of the arguments that was made today, because I was able to go into the second half, Brandon was talking about children in a property sort of state.
Sure.
You know, I'm a co-creator with my ex-wife of these children. And in that sense, he was talking about them as his property. The judge didn't like that language, but I understood where he was going. Children are not property. Well, I mean, they seem to be the property of the state once you go through divorce, you know, or whatever like that. But what he also mentioned too is that, in the same token, that, you know, that he looked at him as being, you know, they were his property, that he was their property. And I think what he was trying to say in this is that, yes, you know, you're talking about me right now as a man, but what about them as children? They need to have this equal right to both of their parents. And that's what's being denied right now. And you've seen it, because we've seen the Facebook Lives. I came down in person just to see what was going on. And again, you know, so his ex-wife, he may not want to say this, he was very kind in court. I would have been a little bit more stating the facts. But she was committing a felony by withholding the children. Interference with child custody under the Texas Penal Code 2503 is a state jail felony. And I reported it, but nobody really has done anything about that yet.
Right.
But anyway.
I think she needs to be held accountable. I think if she's definitely going to be on city council and now the sitting mayor, she definitely needs to be held to the same standard that Brandon would be held to if he withheld the kids.
Right.
So absolutely, she needs to be punished. It is, and nobody's even talking about that.
Right. Not at all.
You mentioned something that we were talking about this morning. Really, what's happening is whether they're picking one parent over another and they're forcing some parents out of the lives of children, the breakdown of the family is the reason we have the problems in society that we have today.
Right.
So what we see is, some of these anarchist movements, whether it's, Antifa or whether it's just the things that we have going on in this country from a day-to-day basis.
Right.
What we're experiencing now is about 50 to 60 years of the breakdown of the family, and now it's starting to show.
Right.
So really what we need is we actually need good dads like Brandon to stand up and be vocal.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're a personal friend of Brandon's then. Have you ever seen him lose his temper or anything like that?
I've never seen Brandon lose his temper. That's probably the reason why I'm here today, because I think Brandon's a great guy.
Yeah.
I think his wife Jana's a good person, and I think those kids actually deserve to be in their life.
Absolutely.
And I think Brandon and Jana deserve to be in their life.
Absolutely. Well, Hunter, thanks. Any final words on anything or not?
No, I just say keep up the fight for all you dads out there. I know for Dad Talk Today and all the different organizations that we have, get involved. Get on board, and let's make 2021 a good year for custody.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Hunter.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm here with Rustin Wright. Rustin, you're in Palo Pinto at the county courthouse. What brought you down here today?
I came here to see Brandon Johnson.
So, Brandon, how long have you known him?
I've known him for a long time, maybe 5-10 years.
What are your thoughts about him as a father?
I think he's probably one of the best fathers that I know.
Right, exactly. I think the same thing as well. Have you ever seen him lose his temper or, anything like that?
Never.
I mean, I've seen him when I've talked with him, because we got talked probably once a week or so, sometimes more, sometimes a little less frequently. But I've always appreciated talking with him because of his strong convictions. He seems to be a man of faith, a man of principle, a man that of integrity, a man of very strong compassion at the same time. And is there anything that I've said about that you found to be not true, or do all of those things that I've just mentioned about him, are those actual characteristics of his?
Those are all characteristics of Brandon. He's a great guy.
Yeah. He's been fighting for 50-50 for what, 3 or 4 years now?
I'm not sure how many years, but he's been fighting for a while.
Yeah, I know. I first met him down in Austin when he was down there testifying, and that's one of the things he said, is that we need to be persistent. And he talked about in the courtroom today, and I'm just going to mention this quickly, we'll move on from here then, but he talked about children, parents have a right to their children, and then also children have a reciprocal right to their parents. Parents are co-creators of children, and that both parents should have equal rights, and children should have equal rights to both parents. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree totally. Children do have an equal right to both of their parents, and parents have an equal right to their children. It's your natural, fundamental, unalienable right.
Right. Do you have any experience with this that you want to talk about, or just?
No, I fight for equal custody as well, and hopefully we'll have a bill this next session, and it has a really good chance of passing.
Yeah, the first time I think I saw you testify was several years ago, and I thought your testimony was one of the best that was given in front of the JJFI regarding equal parenting.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're very, very solid. Anyway, thanks for being out here. Anything you want to finish up with?
That's about it.
Okay, thanks so much. So I don't know your name, but I saw you down here today. And your name is?
Name's Billy.
Billy? Okay, so were you down here today? We're in Palo Pinto County Courthouse. Were you down here in support of Brandon?
I was.
Yeah, so how long have you known Brandon, and what's your general impressions of him as a person, as a father?
Well, he's a good man.
Okay.
I know him man to man.
No, man to man. Have you seen him in relationship with his children as well?
A little bit.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts, in the whole thing that happened today? And I'm not going to talk about what happened as far as the judge was concerned, but you know that he's been fighting to have equal access to his children. You know that the last couple of months he's been denied by his ex-wife access to his children. Any thoughts about that, or what happened today?
Well, no. He's a dad. He has equal rights.
Yeah.
Who's another man or another woman to turn around and state that he doesn't have a right to his property?
Yeah.
They can argue property all they want, but the people that do understand this is we understand that the state and these courts believe that children are chattel.
Right. So it was very interesting because that argument was actually mentioned, and the judge said, well, you know, you view your children as property or as a chattel or something like that. He made that
how
statement.
the state looks at children, chattel and property.
And that's what I thought as well. I thought, well, wait a minute here. The state uses our children as their property.
The only difference is a man gives their property, known as a son and daughter, free will.
Right. Whereas the
state controls.
Right. Right. Very interesting point of view there. One of the things he also talked about was the children having the freedom to have access to both their father and mother together. Both the co-creators of the children, the father and the mother, should have equal access, and the children should have equal access to both the father and the mother at the same time.
When you say children, define children.
Yeah, well, as far as the property, if you want to.
I don't understand what a child is.
Yeah, well,
I've been led to believe it exists on paper.
Yeah, well, as far as whatever you want to call it, son, daughter, you know, a man, woman, boy, girl. I mean, how do you refer them? I know that you're probably much more developed in those arguments.
Well, as I'm a man, I believe that I have property known as my sons and daughters in the private.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what the public calls it because I'm not a member of the public.
Yeah.
I'm not a member of the legal society.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I got that. So anything else you want to add at all or not?
Say that sometimes you've got I think people with judges are, I believe that they just don't understand how the court system works. You know, you can't come into a court system with controversy. You know, you got to remove the controversy, and the controversy is somebody's just made a complaint against you, not a claim.
Right.
You know, unless you're in a lawful court.
Yeah.
But it's nothing more than bitching.
Yeah.
So offer every opportunity to remedy the matter, and if you don't remedy the matter, you end up in a court system like this.
Yeah.
And they're going to walk all over you, especially a parent or a obligee, obligor. They're going to walk all over you.
Yeah.
You got to know who you are and what God created.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And an honorable man removes all the controversy.
Yeah. How do you do that in this system?
Well, you got to sit here and figure out what the complaint is.
Yeah.
So for every recourse, there's got to be a remedy.
Right.
You know. So if there's a complaint, a man just tries to figure out a way to settle that complaint. Any opportunity, any way to settle that.
Right.
You know. And if he can't do it, but he showed that he's had the ability and he's tried to turn around and remedy the matter and offer remedy to their complaint, then who is it really bringing in the controversy in the court?
Right, yeah, so the court is actually involved in things that should not be in.
The court needs controversy to move forward.
Right, right, and the court needs controversy to survive.
Yes.
So, yeah,
they live on it. The first thing an attorney will file is an argument.
Right.
Why is that? Because the court needs an argument. They need controversy.
Right, right.
You know?
Gotcha, very good points. Anyway, so thank you very much. Great talking with you. Okay, so I'm here with Caleb Leverett. Is that how you say your last name?
Leverett, yes.
Leverett. Okay, so where did you come up from today?
Houston area.
Houston area.
Conroe.
How many hours did you drive up here then?
About 4.5.
So you're talking about almost 300 miles, 250?
250,
Yeah. What was the reason that you came up here in particular?
Just on Facebook friends.
Have you never met Brandon in person then
I'd
before?
never met him in person, no. But
Okay.
yeah, I'd seen him go through the same stuff that I'd gone through all those years. And
Yeah.
my stuff's kind of in the past now, so I just thought I've got the time and might as well go just show support like people did for me.
Yeah, yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about your situation and how that got resolved? I mean, first off, let me ask you a question. What are your thoughts about the Texas family court system?
Overall, it's all crooked, but Ector County is starting to come around finally, only because of Judge Billingsley.
Okay. So you're actually seeing some progress down there.
Oh yeah.
Something good. Okay, that's great to hear because
she's not afraid of the sitting judicial cartel there, and she's actually fair. She's not a pushover, but she's fair.
Yeah, good. So tell me a little bit about your experience. What all happened with you? I know that you're pretty famous to some degree, but the people that don't know you.
My oldest son at the time, in 2013, was taken from me after a showdown, I guess you could call it, in a video that went viral. I was put in jail for that later for 30 or 60 days for being a good dad.
So you got put in jail because of the video?
Well, technically because of what happened in the video. I was convicted on 6 counts of not kicking my son out of the car.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
They could never pinpoint what law or statute or decree from upon high that I actually broke.
So they just made something up, more or less.
All the decree said was I had to deliver him to the address, and that's exactly what I did. I delivered him.
Yeah.
And as a champion for nonviolent parenting, I wasn't going to hit my kid. I wasn't going to force him out.
Right.
But I told him I have to deliver you, and I did.
Yeah.
I said after that, you're on your own. I can record it, and I will record it because it's my vehicle in a public space. I've got every right to record.
Yeah.
I said, but after that, I can't. That's the reason in the whole 72-minute video, I hardly said, 10 sentences.
I do remember that there was not much was being said there. So that created quite a controversy then between your son and his mother and stepfather, or?
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah. So you had 60 days in jail because of that.
Yes.
Just because you were recording and protecting yourself and him at the same time.
All I can say is I was found guilty on 6. Every time I went back to get my other children and didn't kick Parker out, that was another strike against me.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So right now, how are things? I mean, has Parker aged out of the system?
Yeah. I've got 2 of them aged out. One of them, Blaine's about to age out.
Okay.
Fast forward 3 years from the Parker thing. Basically the same thing happened. Roughly the same thing happened to Blaine.
Yeah.
But this time I was awarded full custody, or not full. There's people, I hate it when I say that. I did not get full custody. No person has ever had full custody of any of my kids. Was awarded primary custody.
Right. In
2017.
Yeah.
I was awarded to receive child support, which I didn't ask for.
Yeah.
And a few other things, but we wound up settling mediation shortly thereafter, and it's been the same ever since. He's 17 now.
Yeah.
He'll be 18 in June, so he's almost out of it. So
yeah. So as far as you were concerned, I mean, going through some of the stuff in jail and everything, were you convicted of being a felon then, or what?
No,
what was it?
Civil contempt, civil court.
Civil contempt, civil court. Okay. And how did that affect your job and everything? Because you were for 2 months. I mean, did you just come back to a job afterward? Did you lose it?
Fortunately, at the time, I've pretty much always been subcontract.
Gotcha.
Field mechanic in the oil field. At the time, I was subbing through a friend that I've known since I broke out in high school.
Yeah.
And that part I got really lucky at.
Yeah. Any stigma attached to it?
Oh yeah. Nobody's gonna hire me now. It's not because of necessarily jail, but just because of how obnoxious I was being online and recording, putting cameras in the faces of people that are messing with my kids.
Yeah. So you would consider yourself to be a very protective dad then, versus not somebody who was not going to let his kids be abused, but then you got looked at as being an abusive father yourself.
Say that again?
I said, so you were kind of protecting your kids to keep your kids from being abused.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of your ability, but in the meantime, they looked at you as almost being an abusive father for doing that. Is that right?
At the time, that's how the judges looked at me.
Yeah.
But
so
it gets a lot deeper there. Like I said, until Judge Billingsley came along, it's a complete, total cartel there. There is no justice unless you've got enough money.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so I don't know if you heard or not, but last week, you were on the meeting with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. There was not a lot of confidence in the family courts, were there?
I think I was the only one that gave some positive feedback to that entire panel of judges.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, just so your audience would know, I thought it was great that Judge Billingsley orders all people to go through her court, no matter how many times, to go through a parenting class that brings up the actual term, parental alienation. And I said, okay, great, this is good, because that term is I didn't even know what parental alienation was when I got divorced and I lived it.
Yeah.
I never heard of it.
Yeah.
And so I, in turn, said I think it'd be great if this panel would get all judges in the state of Texas to watch Judge Billingsley's Zoom videos and watch how she conducts. 'Cause like I said, she's not a pushover.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell I was going to walk into her court and give her any line of crap. She either saw through me or she didn't.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to see through. I'm broke. I went completely broke. There's nothing glamorous about being an activist and living in my rent at the time in San Antonio was $550 a month. Covered rent, water, sewer, electric, cable. I still came short. There's nothing glorious about it. I don't care how viral videos go.
Right.
that's not why I did it.
Yeah.
I did it because I'm going to be there for my kid, because I've always been that person, like, I would want someone to be there for me. Hence the reason I'm here today.
That's the reason you're here today, right? And I felt the same way. I mean, the same thing that when you kind of wish that somebody would have been there, and everybody, well, that's just a personal thing. And so anyway, it was great to meet you in person. I think first time in person. I don't know.
I saw you once at the Capitol building in Austin.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether we had met down there.
I don't think we met. I didn't. I actually thought you were a politician, so I wasn't gonna. I wasn't gonna bother you.
Yeah, well, too much. Not quite yet. Maybe someday. Anyway, so good to meet you, Caleb, in person at last. Thanks so much. So Ty, you came out to Brandon's trial today, right?
Yes, sir.
What were your thoughts?
Very biased. I think the judge already had his mind made up before any evidence or any of the case was presented in front of him.
You were actually in there for the entire thing, weren't you?
I was, yes, sir.
Okay, that's very interesting, because I only got in for half of it, and a lot of us were not even allowed to go into the courtroom.
Correct.
Period. So what brought you down there? I mean, how do you know Brandon and everything else?
Me and Brandon have been talking for, I'd say about 2 years now.
Okay.
And my case is out of Tarrant County, and we all know how corrupt Tarrant County judges are.
Can I ask who you have?
Was Beth Polos, the associate judge, and filed a de novo against her. And then got it in front of Mr. Hennigan's court, and there proceeded to land myself on supervised visitations with no evidence presented.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of really, really bad things about Tarrant County. I mean, I've not heard of anybody who said anything positive about Tarrant County.
Not for fathers.
Yeah, anyway. So you've known Brandon for a couple of years. Have you, this is the first time you've met him, or have you actually met him?
No, he sat in on a couple of my court cases.
Yeah.
And so wanted to show, the same respect and support, that he's shown me and has helped me.
Yeah, yeah. And anything as far as what you know of him as a father? What are your thoughts about him as a father, dad? Have you ever seen him? And maybe you haven't seen the interactions between him and his children.
I have not personally. I mean, he's just like all of us. He's just a father trying to get rights to his kids.
Right.
And as we can see on some of his videos, that he's being withheld that right.
Right. And one of the things, I've talked with Brandon about this in the past, because when the decree was first made up, he was supposed to have a right of first refusal, which would mean that, when the kids were going to be, gone, his ex-wife was going to be gone from the kids for such an amount of a time, that the first thing would be that, he would be have the opportunity to be with them. And the attorney conveniently perhaps forgot to write that into the whole order. So Brandon thought he had it, but he really didn't. And that's been part of the problem, I think, that has been caused, that has dragged on and on and on. But so you were in there today, and you felt that the judge was biased from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, you can even hear from the judge's opening statement. Now, I didn't get verbatim what he said. Some of the other gentlemen that were in there got it written down on paper on what he said. Of course, there's no recordings or anything.
Right.
So,
which is a shame.
It is, and
yeah.
That was one of the very first statements out of the judges and the bailiffs' mouths was, no audio, no recording, turn your cell phones off, not even on vibrate.
Yeah.
And it's even posted as a notice,
right.
You'll be subject to contempt if...
Right, and I really wonder why that is. It seems to me like sometimes when you have, because the Texas Constitution says that the courts shall remain open.
Correct.
And then I was there actually representing Dad Talk Today Media, so I mean, I actually sent in a request last night and everything.
I read that.
I knew it was going to be denied. I was
Correct.
aware of that, but I wanted the record created.
Exactly.
But something needs to be done here, because what goes on in these courts, when you have the secrecy that takes place, in a sense, there's some really bad things that can happen there.
And it's called the Star Chamber.
It is called the Star Chamber. Exactly.
It's your word against a judge's, an elected official.
Right.
With a human being as a court reporter being told, write that down, don't write that down, write that down, don't write that down.
Yeah.
And as you can see, from my point of view, whenever, say, Brandon was talking today, you can see the court reporter only reporting, minimal parts.
Yeah.
And so now the record isn't preserved as far as verbatim on what actually happened.
Right. Right, and then also the nonverbal stuff is not preserved either.
Correct.
And sometimes the nonverbal, I mean, some people say that nonverbal communication is 90% of all communication. Exactly. So we're missing 90% at the get-go, plus we have an incomplete record.
Correct.
So, I mean, as far as you saw things then, you felt that from the beginning it was already, the court was kind of against him from the get-go?
It is with any pro se father. You know, they want to expose the corruptness, and of course they don't want it to be exposed because they're raking in the money and the federal funding. But whenever you rule on somebody to get a psych evaluation, but then automatically say denied once they step up and say, hey, you know, I think the other party needs one as well.
Yeah.
You know, that shows a form of bias.
That definitely showed the form of bias, because, you know, when Brandon said, I will do this conditionally so long as you give her half or do the same thing, and the judge denied that.
Correct.
And the reason that I say that is because I have firsthand knowledge. I mean, I was down there. I've been in there. I saw what she did to me in person, and I do have that on videotape too. Now, I don't know whether the judge saw that evidence or not. I don't know. I think there's another trial coming. Okay. But this is some stuff that I think that, I mean, it's perhaps Brandon could be, you know, he could have presented his evidence a little bit more clearly, but he was trying to avoid controversy.
Correct.
And the problem is that in a legal system that thrives on controversy, and that there must be a winner and a loser, there must be a victor and there must be a vanquished.
Right.
You know, people that want to go in and come out in peace are at a disadvantage. Right. And that's the problem of the system right now.
And then whenever the judge says, do steps A, B, and C to have a relationship with your kid, or with your children, and then now all of a sudden they're putting you on notice on, this is the only way that you're going to have a relationship. You know, she already has the relationship. She's already got the primary custodialship, so none of this that you have to do is, you know, pertains to her. It's all to the one actually trying to fight for their rights.
I felt that that part of it as well. I mean, looking at what was being said there, he had a list of things that Brandon could do, and I thought, well, number one, you're not even talking about the fact that she has been withholding children from him. Correct. You know, that they've not had 50-50. He lives only a couple of miles away, and she, you know, so that he could be in their lives all the time. She withholds the kids. I mean, I reported her a couple of weeks ago because it was a felony in progress. The Texas Penal Code says interference with child custody is a felony, a state jail felony. Correct. And I reported it, and I guess now they do have the police report. I mean, I made a big deal about it, so I don't know if it was my police report or Brandon's, but I know that I'm down there as a witness. So here you have a witness, and I have my videotape out there as well of the exact same thing that was taking place. I have the police officer who went down there, who actually reported on the children, but did not take her into custody and did not bring the children at the same time. So that was really, you know, and I understand the police officers are in a very difficult situation, but we need to be consistent in the state, because the issue was when, you know, Brandon talked about children as property in a sense, and said she's trespassing, she's taking my property, it's theft. And by the way, I'm their property too, I'm their father. But it was, you know, it definitely seemed to be a little bit one-sided in some of the things that he was saying. But the other thing I was wondering, you know, he was talking about a number of things in which he almost presented himself as being a parenting expert of some sort. And I thought, well, suppose you're a judge, does that not qualify you to be a parenting expert? And then he said, well, you know, he talked about the things that a good father does and doesn't do well. And then he kind of admitted we don't always do it. So, I mean, should he have his children taken away if he's yelled at his children?
Exactly.
And, you know, the idea about, you know, you should not discuss any litigation with the children. And my question is, well, why not? Right. You know, how do you know, how are you as an outsider allowed to make that judgment? Maybe it's the best thing that the kids need to know that this stuff should not happen. But anyway, it was a very interesting day. There was, I don't know if you saw or not, I think that there were about 20 people down there, almost 19 that I counted.
About 20, but only 8 were allowed in the courtroom.
Right.
8 close.
I think I counted another 11 or 12 supporting him. And, you know, we could have gotten everybody into the courtroom. It was artificial that we were not able to do that. But anyway, so anything else you want to add about Brandon, or about your own case even, or about family law in particular in the state of Texas?
Family law in Texas is a joke.
Yeah.
It's all, like you said, it's all based on who's the winner, who's the loser, and how much federal funding can we get. Right.
And what I found was interesting is that one guy was talking about in the Soviet Union, you know, they used to talk about how corrupt it was, but then eventually they started to talk about what buffoons they were.
Right.
So, you know.
And if you look into the family statute, or the Texas family law statute, you know, for judges, they have to maximize Title 4D funds.
Right.
But now, where's the statute that says they have to maximize parent-child relationships between both parents.
Yeah, and that
Where
is not there.
at?
Yeah, that's not there.
You know?
And it was very interesting because he was upset with Brandon talking about his children as property, but my thought was, but look at the state is taking the children as the property of the state.
But he also said that both parents have equal access until they are signed into, or until they get divorced, and then it turns over to property of the state.
Yeah.
So then now it's the state's decision to divide up that said property
Yeah.
as they seem fit.
Yeah.
Now, if he's not a, you know, a professional parental advisor or psychologist, what gives him the right to divide property unequally?
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of problems with that. But I'm glad that you've said that. I've thought the same thing. I've said some of it in the past, but to hear it from another person helps to validate it. Anyway, thank you so much, and appreciate it once again.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much.